Hi, Steve here. Welcome back to the final video on less lethal guns. This is a gun I'm very excited to show you today, and if you don't ask for more videos on less lethal, well, this will be the final one. But before we discuss the actual firearm, let me talk to you for just a minute about less lethal options. So they've been around for many years, but technology has allowed us to really deploy better solutions today than ever in the past. Back in the 80s and 90s when I was a police officer, there wasn't a whole lot of less lethal options, but the one I did have was this right here. This was a PR-24 baton. You can see it has a lot of wear from a lot of use. The thing I'm most grateful for with this less lethal option, it not only helped me save my life in situations, but also save the life of people I had contact with that were trying to cause me harm, where I could have deployed lethal options, but the less lethal option took control of the situation. I was able to save many suspects as well as myself when I deployed this instead of a firearm. Not always the best option, not always the option you have to use, but there are times when less lethal options fall into play. Today, there's a lot more options for less lethal. You have tasers, you have stun guns, you can get a baton if you want one. They're not used very often anymore. Or you can even use something like this less lethal gun we're going to be taking a look at today that I'm very excited to show to you. The review today will be on this gun, the Umarex T4E HDX shotgun. You can see this looks a lot like a real firearm. It is very well laid out and has a lot of options I really appreciate. Right off the bat, take a look at the weight here. I'll have it here on the scale. You can see it goes a little bit over 6 pounds, and when you put the CO2 cartridges it uses, you're going to find it goes just above 7 pounds. That sounds pretty heavy, but many of the AR-15 platforms are right at that weight, and this feels a lot like one. It's a very solid construction. It's mainly got a metal body. It does have some plastic parts here on the Picatinny rails, the slide, but it feels very, very sturdy. That's the first thing that really impressed me about this gun, was it feels like a real gun. And with this setup, you have a lot of options. It came with a peep sight. I went ahead on Amazon and I bought this really inexpensive green dot sight. I mean, it was very cheap, under $30. And then I also purchased this light up here, which has a green laser, and you're gonna see that when we shoot it. Pretty cool. Also somewhere around $20. I'll put a link in the description in case you're interested in seeing those. But I mean, $50 for optics. I wouldn't put them on a real AR-15, but in this platform, you'll see they really worked out well. And using this green dot sight, well, it made it very easy to quickly deploy the next round without ever looking through this green dot optic, which I did use both, and they both work great. But you're going to see here in this video first, here's using the green dot sight. Well, not too bad for the first shot. Almost dead center. Let's try again. Yeah, that was right next to it, so it's shooting dead on. It's a little bit on the low side. I didn't bring a wrench out, but I'll adjust that later. Let's go ahead and shoot just 2 more. And here it is using the laser. You'll see they are both right on target. This time, let's just use the green dot sight. So I'm just lining up the light. I'm not even looking at the sights. Hit the same target. All right, so one more left. Well, the sights are right on, which is good. I don't have to do much adjusting there. You can see the target through the GoPro I have up there. The shots are pretty well hitting the center. This gun was very accurate. Now, I was not shooting at great distances, but it is very accurate and powerful. The TX68 comes in several different power options. There's this one here. This is the 40 joule version. Very powerful. It's the highest power one you can purchase stock. This was actually 40 joules out of the factory. 40 joules with kinetic projectiles, well, that can actually create injuries. You'll see here that it's shooting right around 500 feet per second, with almost every round being very consistent on these lower weight rounds. It does a lot of damage. 458. 482. Shim down the lower parts. 493. One more, just going to take out that can. Yeah, pretty well disseminated that can. Look at this can. I mean, it is shredded when it hit it. Soda everywhere. Look at this bear. Those light projectiles, they're going in very deep. I'm impressed. Also, those steel balls, they also done really well on this target. I think that's going to hurt if it hits you. This 40 joule version is not one you want to test on a subject, because those 40 joules could crack a rib, could actually penetrate a skull in some of the thinner places. If it went into an eye socket, it could be lethal, so be very careful if you decide to go with the 40 joule version. Now, this version is not available in the United States yet. I actually had to purchase this from a company in the Czech Republic. They did a great job. They shipped it to me, had it here in about a week. Their support's been excellent. But that's where I had to buy it. I believe in November sometime you'll actually be able to purchase this 40 joule version in the US. But for now, you'll have to shop for it overseas. Now, the other two versions are less powerful. There's a 16 joule version, which I think would be perfect for something like pepper balls. A lot of your less lethal rifles you'll see in that range. And then there's a version, I believe it's about between 6 and 11 joules, which is your paintball gun used for paintball sports. Also, I think it would probably be pretty effective with pepper balls. I don't know that I would want to trust that kinetic rounds, because I think if you have to actually deploy it, well, you're not going to be in a good situation with such a low power projectile. Loading this gun is fairly easy. It's a pump action style gun. You actually have to pull the trigger first to be able to get this to slide. Pull it back, slide it down, and there's a magazine right here. Now, with this magazine, you do have to put a little part that's here, located down here in the stock. And this little device fits right up in here. Clicks in easily, and you just push the projectiles in one at a time. And it holds 16. You can actually put 17 if you take this out and load the final projectile here in the chamber. That gives you 17 rounds ready to shoot. And with these 88 gram cylinders, well, you can shoot 2 full magazines, and you still had some power left to shoot a few more after that. So it's very powerful, and it also gives you quite a few projectiles to fire. A lot more than most less lethal options. After you get everything loaded in here, pull out this piece, locks back in here, and you're all set and ready to go. Now, it does have a little divot here that makes it stay in there really firmly. You do have to pull it out, but it holds it in place. I'm not really worried about it ever falling out. The finish on the TX68, well, it's very good. As I mentioned before, it's mostly a metal body. It's heavy. Love that it has a couple Picatinny rails here. One here I use for this optic laser. This top rail goes all the way down. Now, if you were a subject and you're faced with this, it's intimidating. And it looks like a real firearm, doesn't it? It's very, very easy also to put in the CO2 cartridge. Now, this does take some time. You need to think about this beforehand. Just push this little lever here, pull this off, and the cartridge screws in right here in the bottom. Now, what I did is I screw it in almost all the way, so it's just touching the tip before it pierces the CO2. That way, if I have to deploy it, I just take it, screw it a couple times, slide the stock back the rest of the way around, and I'm ready to go. Although this uses the 88 gram CO2, there is an adapter that will allow you to use 2 12 gram CO2 cartridges that fits right in here. It will work with this gun, and some of the ones available that are lesser power actually include that option as part of the purchase. However, you're going to lose some power. Even this 40 joules is going to drop probably down closer to 30 joules. Still very powerful, but not as powerful as if you use the 88 gram cylinder. Also, you're not going to get as many shots out of it. You might get a magazine out of it, definitely not 2 magazines out of it. You're not going to get the power you're getting with the 88 grams. So for me, I prefer the 88 grams. Now, It's more expensive because the 88 gram cartridge is going to cost you probably about $10 a cartridge, where it's much less expensive for 12 grams. But if I'm going to have a less lethal option available, I'm going to fork out the extra money to get the power I need. Well, this is the final video I'm doing on less lethal. If you'd like to see other videos on that, we'll leave it in the comments below. Apologize for not being online more. I've actually had a number of problems with some guns I've ordered. I had one that I was getting ready to review. When I received it about a week ago, well, it was in very bad condition. The sights were loose. There was no way to tighten them up. The finish was really bad. The cylinders weren't good. I couldn't actually pull the trigger without it locking up. Very disappointed with that one. So before reviewing it, I've actually sent it back to have them take a look at it, see what their support's like. Felt that was a fair way to handle that. So I didn't give you a one-sided review. It wouldn't have been good if we looked at that at first. I had another firearm also where the magazine release had locked up. Well, that went back to the manufacturer, and that's just come back. So I'm looking forward to reviewing that also. Also a new purchase gun. I mean, 2 guns I've purchased recently, they both had issues right out of the box. So check them really closely. When you buy a gun, look them over, make sure there's no issues with them. Well, thank you again for watching this video. If you do me a huge favor and like or subscribe below, it really helps me to be able to put up more content. And I know that people out there are interested in what I'm doing. Hey, thank you again for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you have a great week. Until the next time.